Welcome to the Anchored Mind podcast.
I'm Kristen,
And I'm Michael.
and we are on a mission to redefine care by combining counseling, nutrition, and fitness all into one space and all into one focus so that you can really live a better life.
And today we're going to dive into how so easily in our relationships we can fall into patterns of competition, whether it's between who's the better spouse or who's the better parent, instead of actually protecting what matters, which is our connection. So
Mm,
let's dig in.
let's do it.
Okay. Our relationship needs protection, not competition. What does that mean?
If we're always going after the same thing, how do we offer each other a balance?
Yeah. Especially if always going after the same thing means going after different things that ends up dividing us. And that's inevitable because we don't marry ourselves. We each have a unique wiring, which dictates our unique values, and those unique values inform how we feel, and how we feel leads to what we choose. And so, of course, we're going to choose different things. Like, where do you want to go to dinner tonight? It's probably the most common conflict that I hear from couples that I work with. And it's funny because if they're not competing over who should choose, they're competing over what they prefer. And then you may pick a place and the other person doesn't like that place and they don't even know why. Maybe they're just used to disagreeing with one another. So,
Expecting each other to like the same thing or to desire the same thing or to be driven towards the same things. Is that what you see?
oh my gosh, there's so many different, I would say, conflict patterns that couples present with. And it's weird because they almost show up as habits. It's interesting because as an outsider, I watch it and it looks like it's happening to them. But the problem is no one's intervening.
Mhm.
No one's stepping in to say, "Ooh, I think this is happening to us." And then the most important part, here's my part in that conflict pattern or the
Mhm.
cycle that we're stuck in. Instead, they're so focused on what their partner should be doing differently.
I do that. That's hard for me
Well,
in our marriage.
I'm a licensed professional counselor with over 10,000 hours of experience in the therapy room, and I still do that too.
But I would say that you have taught us to do that, even if it's still hard for you. You are the one who leads in that way. Like, that's really hard for me. I get stuck in that, in the middle of that conflict, in the middle of that competition, and kind of get sucked in. But you're able to zoom out a little bit and be like, let's remember what we want this to look like at the end. Let's
Mm.
remember what we want out of this. And it's easier maybe for you to do, but it's that whoever that is in the relationship, that makes a huge impact, especially for me.
Well, thanks, honey, but I don't think you should give me too much credit because I'm certainly not that consistent. And the reason that any of us are not able to always show up that way and own our part or take responsibility. I mean, we can get into the deeper psychology of shame and then protecting those parts of ourselves. But really, I like to just simply throw out that we were the versions of ourselves longer before us than we are the versions of ourselves now as married couple,
That's empathy.
right?
Yeah.
Well, but also for our own selves. I mean,
Mhm.
you have to give yourself past grace. I mean, or excuse me, you have to give your own past self grace. We're no longer who we were. And part of that is we've had all these lived experiences, maybe we've had past relationships, but one of the biggest influencers is we've had a childhood. We've had a whole family experience and we came from an established system.
Mhm.
I mean, you're rolling dice if that system was even healthy, whatever that means.
Mhm.
And then boom, you're spit out of that system after approximately 18 years, if not more. And then now we're expected to become this adult and enter maybe a dating relationship or things get serious and eventually we get married. And hopefully you're prepared for that.
Mhm.
But again, you have this chemical reaction of two different variables, these two different people from two different backgrounds. And there's always going to be differences. Even couples who come from similar cultures or families, they still have their own unique wirings, their own unique natures or temperaments. And so it's incredibly rare for us to marry ourselves. And I think there's a tendency to believe that, oh, well, it would just be easier if I married myself. I would argue that's not true. I don't know about you, I can sit here and think about what would it be like if I actually married someone just like me? I think I'd be really bored or
Mhm.
probably really annoyed.
I know I wouldn't have found the version of me that I've found if I didn't marry someone like you, which is a lot different than me in a lot of ways. Like, we have a lot of differences,
Mhm.
but I mean, I think our marriage is beautiful now, but we've had to really work through a lot of figuring out how to communicate through those differences, and that's been hard.
What do you think leads to the beauty of our marriage now?
Accepting one another and enjoying the differences a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I was so uncomfortable with the differences for so long in the beginning, and I fought those differences. I expected you to know the same things I know or to be
Yeah.
prepared to get in the car and know all the things and know the timing and know how to get ready to go at the same time and just be thinking in the same way that I was. And we have, like you said, two different experiences and we bring two different things to the table. So
But I've gotten pretty good at reading your mind now.
I know.
Kind
But we've
of
done a lot of talking in the
I can
meantime.
avoid danger. Yeah. But we do still bump into competition, right? Because I'll just typecast us a little bit. You as you value a sense of control, you have a certain power about you. You're a natural leader. And it's not to say I don't know how to lead, but I'm more of a perfectionist. I can get lost in the details and, linger a little longer. And sometimes what I think happens is we will bump into each other's innate needs.
Mhm.
And that causes negative emotions, which ends up leading to us competing. And then it's really who's right? And that's the wrong question to be asking. We're really, the reframe here, as we like to call it, is what are we protecting? Are we protecting ourselves and what we think is the right decision or the right direction or the right choice? Or are we protecting what our relationship needs? And then when you add kids into the mix, I think it brings a whole new level of accountability because they're watching everything.
Yeah. And I think personally, I was so surprised, even shocked at kind of learning some techniques and some strategies, like just to talk about things before, like,
Before they build up.
yeah, or like instead of just expecting you to know something, know the same things I know, or want the
Mhm.
same things I know, to simply learn how to talk about those things with low expectations and then decide on a plan and how to figure that out. It just communication made such a difference, but that learning to communicate about those things before emotions set in, maybe?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it definitely gets harder right before the when the emotions set in, it makes it harder.
Yeah.
But I really think at any stage, I'm sure you'd agree with this, it's always a risk. I mean, when you risk being vulnerable, being open with what you're feeling or what you prefer or what you need, you're risking the other person rejecting that
Mhm.
or saying in some sense it's not important. And that's really where, not to spoil this episode, but the whole point, the whole purpose, the whole goal of protecting the relationship is reminding each other that you care.
Yeah. So what's an example of that you can remember from our marriage where our needs competed and we lost sight of protecting the relationship?
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is our early dating days, and now we're getting into attachment.
Mhm.
So, attachment theory talks about how the way we were raised with our early caregivers informs how we quote unquote attach to other relationships as we become adults. And so I am not saying anything about my parents. I am just saying there's a combination of factors that resulted in me coming out of the oven, so to speak, and being on the other side of Kristen. My anxiety got turned pretty high. I think because I felt a sense of desiring her acceptance and her attraction to me. And whenever it felt like it was unsafe, which is, of course, subconscious, it's very nervous system driven, my anxiety would turn up, which would make me lean in. And she would say, put pressure on her. And then the result was when she felt pressure, her anxiety would turn up, but her anxiety was more internalized. And that internalized anxiety led to her avoiding. So she would lean away. Well, when she'd lean away, I'd lean in. And when I'd lean in, she'd lean away. And we call that the cat and mouse dance.
Mhm.
And so that's our example of probably the most common pattern in our relationship of competing needs that really just was a self-perpetuating cycle.
What about more along the lines of like innate needs or temperament needs rather than
Mm,
attachment? I'm trying to think of a good example in that area.
yeah, that is a good example. Well, let's go through our what we know of our list. So Kristen aligns with the choleric temperament, and so her innate needs are first and foremost a sense of control. She values loyalty. She really likes getting credit for the work or effort that she puts into things, and she definitely thrives on appreciation. I am aligned to the melancholic temperament, which means more introverted than her, and I'm also task oriented like she is, but I'm more perfectionistic. So, like I mentioned earlier, I can get lost in details, which means I might be a little slower than her, more analytical. And I really enjoy some creative outlets, which take time. And so, my innate needs are four S's: sensitivity, safety, support, and then a big one to help me recharge is space and silence. I really need a regular dose of solitude. I think that last one triggers a memory where it was probably early in our marriage where I was pretty nervous to bring up to you, "Hey, I need some time away. I need to recharge." And ironically, you I think felt rejected by that,
Hmm.
abandoned.
I remember that.
Was
I didn't
that threatening your
understand.
loyalty? Yeah, yeah.
Maybe. I think it was hard for me to stay curious and to lean into the fact that to not get stuck in my needs or emotions, like to stay
Mhm.
curious about yours. I think that's hard for me sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's interesting too, I even remember us using the term selfish, like when we fall into, I'm just getting real, when we fall into the competition of, who's, it's almost like we're judging each other's needs, which
Yeah.
is easy to do when they're not our own and they're different. They're going to be foreign. So when you don't understand, you judge. And so I remember us labeling at times our needs being selfish, and here's the truth, they are. But selfish does not mean bad. It's bad if it ends in selfishness and there's no next step or no reciprocity. But I would reframe selfishness as an oxygen mask. It's necessary to take care of yourself so that you can become the best version of yourself for those around you. As long as it leads back to that, it's not endlessly selfish. It's necessarily selfish. And you could even say that stewardship of our own individual needs is a responsibility. But when we get married, the additional responsibility is also stewarding our partner's needs.
Learning and understanding them
Yep.
without judgment.
And that protects the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. That is something that we've come a long way with, but that has been hard is to put our needs aside and stay, focused on each other's in those moments
Yeah.
to give our partner what they need instead of what we think they need,
Yeah.
what we think that they should do. Like on Saturday mornings, I used to think that we should all get up and want to do projects together and have the energy to not sit around and not like that's what I
Sometimes.
believed was what we should be doing.
Mm.
And that really got in the way. My expectations, because we're kind of talking about different things here, but my expectations coming from family systems or from my history or from my innate needs, like was that we should get up and get busy.
Yeah.
And that really competed with your needs on a Saturday morning after a week of counseling or something. You needed rest, you needed some solitude, some silence, time to decompress. And then your energy would follow later. And we were really bumping into each other there.
Yeah. But, to come alongside this example, I also think that things can change even though those innate needs don't change,
Mhm.
like my need for solitude or space and silence. Over recent years, I've learned not only to better manage my schedule, still not perfect at it, but I'm learning more and more what my capacity is so that I have more margin for you and the girls on a Saturday morning, especially if we do have something planned like a soccer game to go to or the farmer's market, or we want to get up and do a family run. I want to be able to have that because now, not just protecting our marriage, I really do feel a sense of responsibility with protecting our family experience. The girls are starting to remember things that we do together. And I know loving them and those memories is also loving you and
Mhm.
protecting our marriage. So I have to find these other pockets of selfishness, basically.
Mhm.
And I am not a morning person at all. I don't think I ever will be. But being married to you has really helped me practice, and I think having kids, you're forced into a schedule,
Forced.
but it's really helped me practice getting to bed earlier and getting up earlier. And instead of what I would normally have done in my single days of staying up, and I could probably stay up till 2, 3 in the morning, and
Mhm,
do whatever. And my creative energy would be high. That was just how I think I was uniquely designed. But I learned that it doesn't just have to be at night. I could have that solitude, that space and silence first thing in the morning. And it actually led to a more productive day. I felt better. I felt healthier. There's all kinds of science around that. But it really, that was icing on the cake. It was really fueled by I know I need to protect our marriage and our family. And if I keep doing what I was doing, I'm going to risk losing that
mhm.
and losing the respect and getting in the way of these lived experiences.
And same kinda thing on Saturdays, I had to let go of my internal agenda and what I thought we should do that day. And you're right. As our family has grown, that's gotten easier because we are no longer like two individuals trying to blend in a marriage. We are now this big functioning family unit. So you're not able to be as selfish with your needs. But I I have learned to have less expectations on a Saturday and communicate my needs, but also be watching out for yours and other family members, and there's beauty in that because we get to I don't know, I've just experienced that the way that you rest on a Saturday or the way that you recover from a week is something that actually benefits me too. Like, I've
Yeah.
learned to find and I use the word beauty again, but the beauty in it of other needs that maybe I didn't know about or haven't acknowledged along the way.
So you're saying I'm not all that bad.
Yeah, I've learned to drink a cup of coffee with you.
Nice.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah, I've turned you on to
Remember that?
brunch.
In the
Yeah,
in
you
the
like breakfast
beginning
now.
of our marriage, I did not like brunch or coffee, I
Yep.
like to get up and get busy, and,
Yeah.
like but I have like, now that's one of our special times is sitting around having a cup of coffee and
Mhm.
deciding what the day should look like together
Yep.
instead of what we both individually think of the day.
Yeah. Yep.
And really,
Grateful.
I have to be honest, I still desire my individual needs and like getting up and getting tons of stuff done on a Saturday. Like I still crave that. But what I crave more is that question that you have used over and over is at the end of today, what do we want that to feel and look like? What kind of day do we want to have had after this? Like, really, if we start to get into an argument or if we start to have a discussion, like, what do we want it to feel like at the end? Do we want
Mhm.
to stay connected? Do we want our marriage to feel good at the end of this conversation or at the end of this day? And then, really, that means not just running away with your needs or not just running away with mine, but honoring both so that we both feel really good. And what does that look like?
Well said. Yeah. So all that probably sounded great, but I think the perpetual conflict that I think of nowadays that has always been present and maybe, for the foreseeable future will be are more of the uncontrollable, unpredictable moments of competition, which really are driven by our own individual emotions. So even though our needs inform our emotions, there still are going to be other things that inform our emotions, like different values,
Okay.
maybe different circumstances, maybe even the fact that nature's unfair and you have to deal with things like pregnancy and giving birth and cycles. And there's just so much more
More kid
complexity.
duties that come,
Yeah. And you're the primary parent. So you deal with a lot more
more
of
dishes.
figuring out parenting, more dishes. I'm trying to clean up more. But there definitely is several elements of unfairness. And with that, because you and I have our own individual lanes that hopefully overlap as much as possible, those different experiences are going to lead to different emotions. And when those compete, I'm thinking specifically on, there's times where if I'm exhausted or let's say stressed or both, and I really want your support, sometimes I screw up. And the way I ask for support is almost out of like expectation.
Mm,
And it's coming from a place of being completely unaware of where you're at. And instead of checking in or requesting, probably more coming at you and you're,
I do the
getting into more
same.
of a defensive position. And yeah, I know we both do it, but I want to at least be open here. And
So really, we instead of asking for what we need, we put
yeah,
each other on the defense when trying
I
to
think
get what
so.
we need.
Yeah. Like, and it actually coming full circle, it reminds me of our own that attachment dance. Like, I think what I'll do is when I come at you, it's almost like I'm anticipating you rejecting what
Mhm.
I need.
Mhm.
I fear that you judge it as weak. And so I think because of that, I'll come at you in an ineffective way, again, almost anticipating your rejection. And I kind of sabotage my own approach, right? Because I'll put you on the defense or I'll come across as critical, same thing. And I'm absolutely not going to get any type of empathy or support from you at that point. You're going to either be shut down or have your guard up. Is that right?
Yeah, that reminds me of, like, the way like, a typical pattern in my head is I don't mind putting in a lot of effort and working really hard towards something. It's what I
It's true.
makes me feel really good, really valuable. But at the end of that, I can sometimes feel taken advantage of or
Hmm.
unappreciated. And when I feel that, I tend to internally, like, blame you for that, even though that wasn't your intention, or maybe you didn't do anything to cause that. And I have to when I internally remind myself of your good intentions and that actually you really do care and you wouldn't want me to feel that way, and we communicated about it, it is, it wasn't you causing that feeling. It was just, what does that mean? Looking at my needs? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's you being able to communicate what you're feeling and what you need. And here's the deal, like, they're always good spot checks because for someone like me, someone who can get lost in the details, or I'm also my father's son, which means I can get really into my work and kind of get tunnel visioned. And so, just again, to be vulnerable here, you having these conversations with me, which unfortunately do come on the other side of conflict. But I would call that healthy conflict or
Mhm.
necessary conflict because hopefully we're keeping it somewhat calm and slowing down and really listening to each other and not speeding up and escalating and raising our voices or anything. But when we're able to actually maintain that calm and really seek mutual understanding and keep it respectful, it it provides a healthy guilt opportunity for me to make some adjustments. And maybe that does give me that extra nudge to, oh yeah, I've lost my morning schedule. I need to get back to getting up just a little bit earlier again. And that way I've gotten myself out of the way and I'm able to show up and help the family from everything with I have a list, unloading the dishwasher and feeding the dog and helping the girls get dressed or making the bed, getting breakfast started, making coffee for my wife. And we're dividing and conquering the morning and I know that at this point that's when she feels the most loved and that's really when we're also going to be in the best place. And she supports my time of making sure that happens as well. So it really is a balance.
But what we have learned is that it's not just your responsibility to fix the way I feel, that I actually
Mhm.
also, and this has been a little hard for me because, working hard and using a lot of effort and, getting up early, those things all look good and sound good. But like, really, my responsibility is actually to slow down and provide space for you to join me in some of those tasks and to give you that time and space to do that, not just on my schedule.
Yeah.
That has been a part for me that was hard a
Mhm.
little bit to,
To trust
yeah, that you would get that part done. I
in
didn't
your
need.
way.
Yes. See, as a red, I like it done now
Right.
or when I need it done, but to honor your needs and your rhythm in the day, that I think that was the part that, like, really when I really came to respect that you have a different rhythm,
Well,
that
but
helped.
to be clear, this does go both ways. And this is actually something that comes up in the therapy room quite a bit with other couples who have similar wirings as ours. And I'll even tell them, hey, if you don't mind me disclosing, I'll share. We fall into similar patterns where, let's say, the wife, needs help with something and it needs to be that second. Could you use language like that to make sure it's clear? And I'm going to agree, especially after a conflict about it. The husband will come to an agreement and say, if you need me to do something that minute and you're clear about it, I will agree to help you that minute. But otherwise, I need you to also be able to flex my way. And if I'm in the middle of something, respect the fact that I'm trying to finish what I was in the middle of, even though you have something you need help with. If it doesn't need to be done right away, could you also be open to that?
Yeah.
And that's our balance, right? But it's never perfect. Sometimes there's still going to be conflict.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
going to have our strong preferences, but you nailed it. It is trying to pursue this imperfect ebb and flow of balancing each other's needs and preferences, again, in honor of protecting the relationship, not ourselves, which
Mhm.
is competition. So, Kristen and I are part of a group practice called Anchored Mind in Roswell, Georgia. And we have a website at anchoredmind.care with some resources that would hit on some of the topics we're discussing, as well as an opportunity to connect with us if you feel like you would need some extra support. So, feel free to check it out at anchoredmind.care. And we appreciate you listening.